it's been a short delay. I had a bit of a health problem where I messed up my shoulder, but I'm back. I'm here with a legend, GucciBoomer, Alex McCleary. I'm honored to have you here, man. And you were one of the
Honored
first.
to be here.
You were one of the first dudes that followed me when I was getting started, and it meant a lot to me. You gave me a little bit of words of encouragement out the gate. And you know what? And then I started seeing who you really were through the videos you do. You're out there, you advocate protecting kids. You're out there
Yep.
with feeding the homeless. And there was
Yep.
one video you did within the last month that really hit deep for me. It was the fact that people demonize people who have died and who have been murdered by this fentanyl and these drug problems
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
And so I'm honored to have you here, bro. Like, you're a true badass on the out there, and much respect, bro.
I appreciate that. That you got to give back, right? That's my theme here. You got to give back, regardless of where you've been in life.
Mhm.
I'm 67, so I've seen a lot. I take a lot of shit for being 67 on Instagram, right? But I don't care. I'm an old guy, so whatever. I got I got more time behind me than I do in front of me.
Mhm.
But that doesn't stop me. I tell people that don't fuck with me because I got more people. I got more time behind me than I do in front of me. So I don't have anything to lose, sort of thing. So that's how I play it.
Yeah.
But the stuff I've been through in life and what I've seen, the family migrated over here in 1958.
Yeah.
So I'm first generation, right? They started in New York and they made their way up to Boston in Dorchester. 1829 Dorchester Avenue, we're up there for quite a period of time. So, I've seen the worst of it. And once I got through life and got better and I started straightening myself out,
Hmm.
then I want to give back, because the things I did in the past, I could have been gone. I mean, I could have been gone at age 17, 18 or earlier than that,
Right.
I was fucking up big time, I was doing stupid shit.
Yep.
So now you learn from all that. And so what do? You become a little bit more human about it, right? And giving back, so you mentioned that fentanyl stuff. That was very important to me because I would go flip on somebody's either TikTok or on Instagram talking about their relative or family member or sister, brother, daughter, son just passed away from fentanyl overdose. And I look in the comments and I see, well, he shouldn't have done drugs, this and that. Next thing, it's like, I got pissed off at that. It's like, no,
Yeah,
that's not the
100%.
case, man. How many times in your life, right? I remember the time at Salmon Hill, right? Some dude was, actually, no, it was Southie. I think it was Andrew Station, one of those places. I'm hanging out. This guy hands me a joint. He hands me a couple of joints. I'm smoking angel dust now all of a sudden.
Yep.
And I didn't know that until I took it and said, "Wow, this is different. This is very different. This is a different high." That just goes to show you that if that was something else, if that was fentanyl back in the day or whatever it is,
Be
now
done.
I could have been gone, right? So one mistake, I'm out of here.
Mhm.
People make mistakes, right? And they improve from those mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So these guys didn't even have a chance to improve. And when you look at the stats for fentanyl, it's through the fucking roof as far as how many people have passed. It slowed down a little bit, but it's still crazy.
But now there you have what they're manufacturing now is carfentanil, which was originally used as a big game tranquilizer in zoos. But so it requires even less of, I think it's like a fraction of a milligram could kill 5 people. And and they're here. Like, what people don't want to talk about is that the precursors of this are manufactured overseas. They're muled across the border, and then you have street. Let's be straight. They're not street. They're not botanists or chemists. They're just hood guys that are just slapping together a product, and they're just
with whatever. Yeah.
right. And they're butchering everybody. I mean, back when I was a kid. I'm not old, but I'm not young either. Like, I'm pushing 40 at this point, but. I knew a couple people that died of, they'd be doing blow and then they'd be doing dope. And so the uppers and downers, like, it would just take you out. Now, everything is cut with fentanyl. Like, I wouldn't buy a bag of weed on the street.
No, for real. Unless you gotta know somebody really good,
And even then, I wouldn't.
You got to think about it. You know?
Yeah, it's really scary, and it makes me. It makes me scared for my kids, bro. Like, because
correct.
you know, you're down south, right? You're down in Florida these days, right?
Yeah, I'm in Florida.
All right, but all right, you know, you're a New England guy like me. You know, we take our Halloween up here seriously, bro. Like, you know, Halloween is no joke. If you're a New England cat, like, you know how we roll it up here. But there was a scare that was coming around. Maybe it was 2 years ago where people were those Raz candies, like, or the Smarties, that people were repackaging them and dealing them out, and they were just fentanyl pills. Like, what kind of fucking monster does that? Like,
yeah, you know what? Was that found? Did they find some Smarties that had that shit in there?
There was a couple of them, yeah. Like, they nailed them in Hartford. I think they snagged a couple of them from Boston, and there was a couple out of Springfield.
There's always fucked up people like that. You know, I mean, back in the day, you go to Halloween. You're right. Halloween's a big deal. Remember, back in the time, there's a scare. You know, somebody would give you an apple. Your parents said, "Don't be taking an apple from nobody." You know,
with the razor
blades.
Yep.
You know, I mean, people are that sick.
Yep.
People are that sick. You know, and it doesn't change. You know, but now fentanyl's a little bit more dangerous, right? You're gonna pack it like that. Now it's like, what do we do? So you remember when this guy was tainting Tylenol and he killed a few people, going into the stores and put it. So what did the industry do? They went ahead and they refurbished the bottle, so now you can't get in there unless.
Yep.
I'm sure you could probably maybe get in there with a needle. I don't know.
It's, you know, it takes a really terrible a person of a special caliber to harm, like, people like that, like, to vindictively go out with the intent to murder people or with that. And I'm not talking about like gangster hitmen. I'm talking about, like, I've talked to Dennis Rader. I've talked to, you know, different serial killers, like, and other stuff like that. These men are cut from a different cloth. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's their drive. That's their drive, is to harm others. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's unfortunate and now it's become so widely acceptable. Like, they try to defend them, and, you know, I'll always stand on the side of just humanity. Like, it's Joe the car salesman, or Joe the insurance salesman out there poisoning kids, you know, and gets his rocks off behind everything else, you know. It's just horrible. So, what's important to hear from guys like you is there's so much wisdom. Like, you know, I know you talked about it before. Is like, you know, you catch a lot of shit because you're an older guy or whatever the fuck. There's so much wisdom on what you got to see or what you have to say in the world you've seen. Like, you know, like, what was it like? What was the world like when you were growing up? Like, when you were a young kid growing up, like, what were the hazards then? Like, what were the, especially coming, you know, being in New England, what was your childhood like growing up?
Well, no, it was like anything else, you know. When you're age 5 or 5, whatever, you're out on the streets too. You know, it's not like here you got, you know, you can't go anywhere now. It's like they got you hemmed up in the house. But I was out 4 or 5. I think at 6 I started shining shoes at bars down Dorchester Avenue, right? Mm-hmm. And we wanted to make sure that we hit it right. So we shined the shoes like. Fridays and Saturdays were perfect time. We make a lot of money. Sometimes I made more than my dad, you know. Yep. So we would go in when they were drunk, right? When they were drinking, and we'd be shining shoes all night, right? Yep. And then we'd be delivering something from, let's say, the Blondie Stone up to Ashmont Grill or something. Somebody wanted something, and we would deliver that while we're shining shoes. So that was like an early childhood. You're out there on the streets and you're eating dirt, and you got a whole perspective on life right there. You're starting to learn street sort of things, right? You're kind of hanging around with the kids, and you know, you're out there and but you're doing stupid shit like, you know, like we did, right? So after you shine your shoes and do your stuff, and you kind of graduate into, well, how can we make some more money, right? So me with friends from the corner, what we would do, and I'm not proud of this stuff, right? But we would go up to the Boston rail yards. And go ahead into the rail yards and just cut the rail and open up and grab whatever was in there. And that could be anywhere from transistors to fucking beer. Every now and then, if we got lucky, we might find some cigarettes, but they were the hardest ones to do.
Yeah.
And so we would start taking that off the tracks and selling that.
Yeah.
That's a couple of things that we learned. And another thing that we learned is, which was again not very proud, but Boston's a big hockey town, right? So, and they have a lot of colleges. They have a lot of colleges that have a lot of rinks.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to go up to the Ivy League places, right, where you could walk to fucking, if you wanted to spend some time, you could walk to these colleges, and they all had people playing hockey in there, pick up hockey, whatever.
Right.
And we just go into the dressing rooms and pick up their stuff, pick up their clothes and put them in bags and pick up whatever was in the clothes, and we'd use that and take it out and get money that way,
Yep.
So there was a lot of stuff that we were doing. We'd be drinking, and this is where the death part comes in, We're drinking heavily, doing this shit, getting our stuff, and I'm bombing down Dorchester Avenue, playing stupid games, tag with cars, at 90, 95 miles an hour, whatever. And the streets of Dorchester it's and I'm scraping the car up against the parked cars already,
Oh my God.
If anybody came out, or if there's a car I didn't see, that was the end. I'd be killing somebody, and I don't know how I got through that, bro. I don't. That was crazy times. So, growing up in the city, you did a lot of shit. We broke into some club that was on Edwin Street in Dorchester at night, and it's just like in the movies, right? So, what it was we broke into this club, and we found where the money was, and we broke in it a different way because the club was attached to a house.
Yeah.
So we were able to go through the basement of the house and get in that way, and they had their money. They had their money in there. So we took the money out, and we had quite a bit back in the day. It was a little bit of a haul, and we told everybody, okay, we're going to lay low for a while. Nobody did this. Nobody knows what happened. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we were still kids. We were still teeny boppers, right?
Yeah.
So here comes my best buddy Edward Gorman, right, from Dorchester. He comes with a fucking go-kart, right, just brand new. Riding down the street, making a lot of noise. What are you doing, So yeah, I mean, we were involved in that sort of small little kid stuff when we were growing up on the street. But it progressed for me. It progressed more into, I can talk a little bit later, and more into the white collar stuff. But
yeah,
I got in some big trouble because I got caught. We got caught with going into one of the trains, and we also I was brought up on those robbery charges, and I was brought up on driving to endanger. I had a '69 Charger, Blue Flake Charger, that I took up to Nantasket Beach. It was raining, and I fucked it up. I crashed it right into a van, and that was the end of it for me. And I think I scared the shit out of myself because when I took the breathalyzer, the cop was surprised. He looked at me and said, "You passed it." I said, "Okay, cool." So I think the adrenaline for me pushed that stuff out. So I had to go in front of a judge. I was going to do some time. But back in the day, you can make, and I made this decision before I went in there. I told the judge, "Look, I got this stuff pending here, but I'll tell you what, if we can forget about this stuff, I'll go ahead and join the Army and put in my years in the U.S. Army and this and that." And there was my mom.
We were gearing up for the Crucible. This is back in 2000. Well, I shipped out December 12th, 2010. So you figure I was supposed to graduate in March of that year, but I got hurt gearing up for the Crucible. But back then there was so many, because there was no jobs, so many people enlisted, you know what I'm saying? And they were like, yeah, go heal up at home. And instead of, I should have listened to my uncle, he had passed away a few years back, but my uncle was a jarhead. I should listen to him, but instead I found the bottom of every bottle I could and decided to go back and commit crime. So, out of pure misery. But no, continue on. Did you end up doing any time over in Nam or like?
No Nam time. I was in the sweet spot. So I was in what they call the Cold War. So I was just right after Nam, just before Desert Storm. And that wasn't planned. That was just happened to be the time I went in.
Yeah.
And that was that sweet spot. But still, we were over. Well, I spent a lot of time over in Germany. At a missile site looking for the Russian cars that come by, trying to peek at our car,
Sure.
trying to peek at what we had here. So, but I got, I guess I got caught in some bullshit there, So,
Yeah.
I'd be on guard. I'd do some stupid shit. Like I'd be on guard and I told my friend, look it was 4 on and 4 off, right? So I said, here's what we're gonna do. My 4 off is coming up, so come on down. We're going down to the guest house, and we're getting some drinks. So we climbed the fence, stupid, and we went. I was supposed to be back on duty at 4 o'clock, so here we come, shit-faced back, and we're climbing the fence to come back in.
Oh,
and
no.
they called the red alert because they got some people climbing the fence, and here's the sergeants coming out there with
Oh, no, man.
locked and loaded, like they're going to fire us and shit. Hold up. We got in trouble for that.
God.
We got in trouble for that, but we were able to escape that. But I really made my mark in when I got out of the service. I did a few odd things here, but then I got involved in some political fundraising, which was probably one of the more crooked things I did, but was under the radar because there's a lot of black money that goes on with political fundraising.
Oh, hell yeah, there is.
So we went ahead and we kind of like had meetings. I'm there sitting with I don't know if you remember I don't know if you're old enough to remember Scott Harshbarger was the Attorney General.
No, not.
So I'm doing a breakfast with him. We're doing. You remember Bulger, Senate President Bulger, right?
Sure. I'm a Connecticut guy, but I know the stories. Yeah.
What? Yeah, Whitey's brother.
Right.
So he's the Senate President. We helped him get elected, and what we did is with things like this. There's a Fortune 500 company that's in town that's processing. I want to be vague because it's after it's the time has passed, but I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Fair enough.
But processing claims, let's say that were being paid federally.
Yeah.
But they got paid a lot of money for that contract. We're talking a multi-million-dollar contract. So they wanted to keep that contract, and they wanted to stay in town. So how do they do that? They have to align themselves with politicians, So we aligned ourselves with the Attorney General, with the Senate President, and with some key senators around the state, and we did some fundraising for them.
Yeah.
And how did we do the fundraising? We went ahead and we set up a situation where we would call, doctors, hospitals, whatever, we paid by this Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
And they paid well. So these hospitals and these doctors knew that. They paid on time, they paid well. So you want to keep this company in, that it's like a little squeeze, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is how a little squeeze goes. You want to go ahead and keep this company in because the contract's coming up again next year. We want to get these politicians in because they're pro the organization, that Fortune 500 company. So if you want to go to a $500 a plate dinner, let's do that, and then we'll take care of it for you. So we would arrange these dinners, these huge dinners that people would go to, and we'd make money off of that. We would take some money from that, keep it for ourselves, and then perform the dinners.
Right.
But we're talking, you do 500 dinners and 500 a pop just for one dinner, and you get a few hundred people there, and then you do next day you're doing it for somebody else. You're doing if you're talking 1,000, 2,000 people during the course of a week, a week and a half, you're talking a lot of money. So that's how it went. And this company stayed because whether anybody believes it or not, there is a lot of sway politically for a large contractor to stay and do what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Because it's
no,
it's all about money.
100%. Because all right, a friend of mine he used to work for a campaign, one of the campaign things for Connecticut politician Joe Lieberman. Now, since I started doing this project, I've met a lot of people in the federal government, people in the mob, people in different things. So and it works out because it's great because I can go to anything Connecticut and Western Mass related. I can go to Anthony Arlotta and he'll set me straight and tell me what he knows or what he's heard. But Joe Lieberman, one of his biggest benefactors, donors, I should say, was James Galante for the Genovese family. And I noticed that there's been Waterbury politicians. It was all over the trash business. They got nailed. Like, there's a few people. One of them I know, he used to be a Waterbury mayor. I know him personally. I won't name you. Another one was Phil Giordano. Like, all these guys got smoked in a federal indictment. But when it stopped, where the investigation stopped was when it got to Lieberman's level. He was running for state senate, and then, it all went back to, like, Matty the Horse and different stuff like that. And, like, the thing that was interesting about it is, like, people don't realize that how many politicians actually have mob backing. In some of them know about it, some of them don't. But that's just a straight reality. Like, politics is the bloodiest business and the dirtiest business there is.
Oh, it sure is, man. It's like they always say, it's like making fucking sausage when you look at it, right? By the seeds. It's horrible.
Yep.
And it still goes on today,
100%.
There's a lot of stuff that happens, So, it was easy. It was easy. So we're talking like a 4-year contract. These people are up, and everybody wanted them back in because they were getting paid on time. So it was like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yep.
Politicians are all set. We're all set. It was a win-win for everybody, and it was pretty. It was legal except for the part that we took a little bit more money from what we were supposed to take. I mean, as far as the guys that were putting it together. But there's a lot of work in doing that. You're risking a lot. So one of our connections within that huge company, it was found out that some people were bringing in checks, which they weren't supposed to happen. We were supposed to be picking them up. They were bringing in checks right to the facility and leaving them on the counter. And it's like, no. So they found that out, and he got. They put him in the back. He was like a huge manager at that time for them, but they put him in the back doing something stupid.
Yeah.
So I mean, stuff like that. So that was went on for quite some time because there's a lot of opportunity there when you do that, and you can walk. When you ever can walk to the Gold Dome up in the, the Capitol, and go see Senator so and so because he's got a fundraiser coming and he's asking for you, he's looking for you.
Yeah.
And there you go. I walked in there one time. Stupid, I did have a friend who robbed a bank, right? He robbed it with a toy gun, right?
Yeah.
And whatever. And he says, "Can you get my toy gun from my lawyer?" Right? And I said, "Sure, I could do that." So I go over and get his toy gun from the lawyer. The lawyer hands. I think they had a falling out. So the lawyer was a smart ass. Said, "You know what you're doing with this? This is evidence." I said, "I got it." So I put it in my little valise thing, and I'm walking at the State House with this fucking plastic gun in my valise, right?
Oh no.
Going through whatever, but I was lucky. I was just going up the steps. Remembered that was there, so. And obviously, I turned around and didn't do that. So I almost went in there with that stupid thing.
Yeah.
I would have been in the fucking Globe or some shit, threatening or whatever.
It's so wild, man. Like I was thinking about it. Like, my mind is fixated. Like, you had said it before we started recording this. We talked a little bit. Like, what does it mean to you giving back? Like, why do you feel the need you have to give so much back?
Because I was, when the family came over here in '58, we were really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was piss poor. My mom was from Italy.
Yep.
My dad was from Northern Ireland, and they didn't have a lot of things going on. They had to be sponsored before they came over here. My uncle was already here, working the railroads.
Mm-hmm.
So we were piss poor, and we were brought up piss poor. So that started the feeling with that right there. That was the emphasis for me to say that I'm going and I've been from that point, from a certain age. I think from 5 years on, and right up to now, recent. It's just a fucking grind.
Hell yeah, dude.
All the time.
Yep.
Boom. All the time and nonstop, and I would look at what I'm doing, right? I'd be driving by in my Cadillac, looking out the window and seeing this guy in the street looking for money and this and that. And I'm like, dang, I wonder if there's something we can do here. So I was on TikTok for a while, and I did some lives out there. I was getting money. I didn't know what that was all about. You get gifts for being on your live. And I told people, I'm just going to turn this. I don't want to get paid from TikTok anyway. I'm going to turn this money around, and we're going to go feed the homeless with it. So we started that campaign with that, and we went around, I would say 30, 40 times and we fed the homeless once a month for quite a period of time. Then we went down Miami and had a big shindig down there with somebody that we knew at the time.
Yep.
So we started getting into that philanthropy, and then we still do it today. Not without TikTok, without anybody else, we just do it.
Yeah.
Because, we feel like the less fortunate, if they feel like there's somebody with them, they can turn their life around, right? That's what we look for, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we hope for. So, but I saw enough and I feel fortunate to be alive, at 67, and the bullshit I was doing back as a young kid, that, not too many people. I mean, my old friends are mostly all done. They're all gone because they stayed at the bar.
Yeah.
That's what they did. They stayed at the bar, and that was it. That was their life. And I didn't want that.
Those that know me up in this area, and people that watch this show, they know. Like I represent them in every show I can because I'm 38 years old, and I've probably buried more people than my parents have, like due to drugs, crime. They're gonna find either the grave or the ones that are still alive. There's a handful of them like myself that are doing all right now, but the rest are gonna find the grave or a prison cell. Then there's nothing I can do to stop it. But it's been 9 people I've been close with, and I did the math. It's about 27 I know personally that have died, including the guy who came up with the idea for this show. Then I do the show in his honor.
Very nice, very nice.
And it might cross, like, and I always, he's at the end of every episode in the going out, and there's a friend of mine. He's in a prison cell in Florida right now. I don't. You might be familiar with the case. It made big news. His name is Joe Bova. There's a lot more. He was a friend of mine. He's like he was part of the cruise I rode with. And it's an unfortunate situation. I don't really know all the details to why everything happened down there, but I have my suspicions because it all stems from shit that happened up here. But it's like this whole podcast, bro, is to show the reality of the world, bro. I want to give back to something, and it's like, it's why it's important I talk to guys like yourself. It's important I talk to guys like Anthony and Rob Borelli. Did I lose you? Hold on one second.
I'm here.
All right, I wasn't sure because then you froze, and I was like, "Oh no, did it freeze?"
No, I'm looking. That was my listening intently pose.
That's a thumbnail pose. Like I was like, but no.
So yeah, I've got thumbnail pose. So being the way I am, I get along with everybody. Right? So I know a few people, right? So I know Gene Barillo, right?
Yep.
Good guy to me. I mean, he did his. People say he smacked this girl around, did this and that. And I looked at the video.
Yep.
And he roughly grabbed that phone from her, pretty aggressively.
Yep.
But I didn't see any punches or anything thrown,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was looking at. So I'm not going to judge the guy. He's a good guy. He's a good guy at heart. He's just still full of piss and vinegar, So
that Gene is somebody, like, you know what? He catches so much shit, and Gene's not gonna back down from nobody. Like, he's gonna keep, like, I mean, I talk to him on and off. Like, I'll shoot the shit with him on Instagram and whatever, and Gene will respond. Like, you know what I mean? I don't break his balls.
No, he's a good guy.
And Gene, you know what? And I want to give a shout out both to Gene and both to this podcast. There was a group of young kids that sat with him that just maybe a day ago they posted their video up. I'm proud of these kids. It takes balls to even step into that world to interview somebody like that. I mean, I don't know how old they are, but they seem young. And I think there's so much more to Gene than people allow, like, than people let on. Like, I don't. Yeah. He didn't abuse that girl. Like, he took the phone aggressively, sure. But I don't know. I got a lot of respect for him. You know what I mean? Plus, he's like a year older than me, like maybe 2 years older than me. So he's and I get it. Like, I mean, if somebody was to talk some shit at me, like, I'm gonna react fast, and it's not gonna be good. It takes a lot of time. My wife keeps me, calm down as best they can, but no, it's
I believe Gene when he says he's an on-site guy. He sees you on
100%.
site. He's got to be with these guys up in Philly right now. Not the older guy, but the younger kid that hangs around with him.
Yeah.
And he says on site he'll just smash him, and I believe he would.
He would.
And I don't think he would give a fuck either. You know. I don't think he'd go after the other guy because he's kind of older, and I think he got so and he shows that he does respect him.
Yeah.
You know, the other guy just pushes a little bit much.
You know what? And the thing is like, you know, the one thing that's, you know, you have people, they're so quick to demonize this man. You know what I mean? And, not that we were going to make this about Gene, but the people were so quick to demonize Gene for everything he does, but Gene shows that respect. I mean, look what happened. There was a whole thing with Michael Francis. Gene owned it, and Gene sat down with Michael and straightened it out. You know what I mean? He sat down, and I think Gene is just a firestorm. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
If you hit the right chord, and I respect it, he's gonna show up. He's gonna smack the fuck out of you. Like, and that's just how it's gonna be. And I know 100 guys that are the same way to this day. You know, but
well, it's quite interesting too. You know, because there's a different set of folks out there. You know.
Yeah.
So I know this guy up in Cicero, right, Chicago, and he's active. You know, he's active. Yeah. So he doesn't want no part of nothing. He doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be filmed. He doesn't want to be this. Although, you know, he's all over YouTube and fucking one of his best friends wired up and was talking about. You know, big and getting money and so forth. And
sure.
And he got busted, right? His best friend. And I asked him how he felt about it. He said he was pissed off. And he says, his best friend around? He said, no, he died of mouth cancer. And it was like, you know, karma, he said, you know. But and I asked him, I said, well, why don't you come, you know, you'd be a good guy to have on one of your shows. He don't want to be on the show, you know. So the guys from Cicero are pretty well quiet doing their stuff, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of them out there, like up in the Bronx and such, that are like that, you know. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know Nicky the Wig. He's a Bronx guy. He's an older guy. He's like 70 years old.
Yeah.
And he likes to hang around the Bronx. But he got nipped 10 years ago or so. Yeah. And he's doing his thing. So you know they're out there. There's some really cool cats out there, and I'm with you on the Gene thing. I think he's pretty much, you know, I wouldn't fuck with him. Yeah. And if somebody, you know, disrespects him, he's gonna go back at him. That's the business. And you know.
But I know there's I want to get him on the show at some point. He's one of those main event interviews. You know what I mean? Like, because I know I gotta prep for it, because I think I'll have to keep up with his speed. I'd have to drink at least a pot of coffee.
You know what? It's interesting you say that, because he would. I don't know. Do you know Loomis at all? That guy Loomis?
I do a little bit.
All right. Anyway, he said, "Can you get Gene on the show?" I said, "Gene, do me a favor. This guy wants to talk to you," and I think Gene wants to get his story out. So.
Yep.
I watched that show for the first time. Well, not the first time. Let me go back. Gene basically took care of that interview. He was like the lead guy, and he took control right off the bat. So in order, you know, you're right by saying you need some caffeine and you be on your toes, because he'll, you know. But he says the right things though. I say you probably don't want to interrupt him.
No.
You know. So yeah.
Like, and the thing is, before I would try to approach Gene, like I would rather. I mean, I'm so grateful to the people I have had on this show. You know, I will always give that respect to my brother in Springfield, Mass, Anthony Arlotta. He was number one. You know, I've spent some time with him. We've gone and had cigars. We've had dinner.
He's selling wine now, right?
He's selling wine, Pazzo wine. Like, it's like, yeah. Oh, right. It's like you're messing up. I mean, though, you know, everybody knows that, you know, a big thing for me is addiction. If you're struggling with, don't drink Pazzo wine. But for everybody else, Pazzo blend is the only one to drink, and it pairs amazingly with South End Syndicate of Joe Bradley. Got you, buddy.
Nice. Look at you plugging away.
Yeah, it's like
Very good.
I always take care of my friends, and Anthony's taking good care of me. He's given me sound advice. He's protected me. He's pointed out certain things. I remember him when I started interviewing, after my interview with him dropped, I caught so much shit from the anti-rat culture, which is something I'm going to bring up. And he's like, if you're offended,
I think that's fading a little bit. You know, I got involved in that shit with what's his name, Shea from Boston.
Yep.
Red Shea.
Yep.
So Red Shea. You were going to say something. I don't want to.
No.
Slow your
You can keep going.
So Red Shea kind of fucked over this other guy on the internet, right?
Yeah.
And he was this other guy got him all these interviews with these top dogs, and just because this Loomis guy interviewed or met with Anthony,
yeah,
out in Springfield, prior to that, Red Shea said he doesn't want to deal with him anymore.
Yeah.
So this guy that I'm talking about, the Loomis guy,
yep,
did all those shows, the Underbelly show, the other shows that were out there, and then one day I found up in my inbox, Red has a story or a fucking something with my picture on it, and with a little rat up there saying that because I was talking to Gene and I supported Gene, I did a little thing with him, that I was a rat too, because I support them. So I came back at him, because he's from Southie, right?
Yeah.
And I'm from Dorchester, but I hear him talk, I look at him where he is, so I had like a kinship with him, because I felt it. We were talking about rats back in the day, so I was following him and commenting on the stuff. Until he did that, I said, I was one of your biggest fans, but you want to throw me in that fucking rat bunch, because you know what? I'm a civilian, right? I wasn't in the fucking mafia,
Yeah.
I'm a McCleary, I'm a fucking McCleary. If I was in anything, I was in a disorganized fucking Irish binge up in Boston, Yeah. That's what we did. But I wasn't in any of that shit, so you can't lump me as being a rat.
Yep.
And I was your biggest. And you know what? Now that you've done that, I'm going to expose your ass now for being an asshole about it.
Yeah.
He took it down, and then he blocked me.
Of course he did. That's just what they do. And the thing is like, I want people to understand. It's like, this is, anybody that perpetuates this, all right, a guy cooperated, big fucking deal. Like, you know what, in my opinion, this isn't like, what I would consider a rat is like, if you and your buddies, like somebody steals a pack of gum or something insignificant, and you diamond them out over some bullshit, just like insignificant crap. But in situations like Anthony, like Gene, like, you know what, when there is a point, there is an expiration date on your time on the street, whether that comes at the hands of a gun or a ridiculous prison sentence. That's the one thing that nobody's explaining. It's common sense. It comes with an expiration date in a negative way. It is not wrong. It's not wrong to turn away, to want to do better for yourself. They did what they did, but you know what? That's part of their life. 100%.
So if you're in the life,
yep,
you can call them a rat. If you're in the life, you can call them a rat. Do whatever you need to do, because you can relate to that. But other people outside, because we support them, we're not fucking rats.
No, and
it's like,
you know what? I don't view Anthony as like, you know what? People like, I don't even like using that term. It's because here's the thing. It's like, where's that loyalty? Where's that loyalty? Because the way that it was described to me through several people is that when you're locked up, they're taking your businesses. They're taking everything that you built. They're abusing they're trying to go after your wife. They're trying to waiting for your kids to become of age so they can, sleep with them and do different stuff. So where's the loyalty in that? How is that not a fucking rat move? And it's like, and I try to avoid riding inside of this stuff. But you know what? When it comes to certain situations, it pisses me off. You know what I mean?
You gotta let it out.
And it really pisses me off because, you have society, and they're not even gangsters. You have society that on one hand says that people should grow up, act like a man, change their lives, redemption this and redemption that. But when somebody makes a conscious choice to, you know what? I'm getting out of this shit. I want something better for myself. They fucking demonize them. That's what frustrates me.
Right. That's right.
You know what I mean?
What they're doing is they're going after all those fanboys that'll support them. You know.
Yeah.
They haven't seen anything out there, and they're out there calling people rats. And he's a rat. He's a, you know. That's what they're after. That's what drives their business. Sometimes it's like, you know. Although I thought I've seen a little less play on that now. I'm not.
I think the thing is shifting now a little bit more. But
yeah. I think these people that have been cooperators are out there now, and they're doing quite well for themselves.
Sure.
You know, they're doing quite well. So, yeah, I mean.
You know what?
It's all up to you.
I'm proud of. There's a lot of guys that I'm proud of, and I don't know them, and I don't know if it means anything coming from a guy like me, but you know, I'm proud of Anthony killing it in the wine business. I'm proud of Dom Cicali for blowing up this stuff. I'm proud of the stuff, you know, that Gene's doing, and he's out there advocating and helping people. I'm proud of John Alight. You're out there. You devote yourselves to something bigger. He's a councilman, for Christ's sake. Are you going to tell me that's not the embodiment of redemption? Rob Borelli. I talked with him. You know, people that don't know, his real name's Robert Angle. But he's a real deal, and it's like, and they devote themselves to helping others, showing awareness. Like, why would we demonize that? You know what I'm saying?
And they still got the grind on. That's the
100%.
You know? They're taking that same mentality and putting it forward something different, which is a business.
Right.
You can look at Sakar and look at him and look what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
He's got he's got his own vodka product now, right?
Yep.
He's got the
the
Bitcoin
crypto
deal going on. Yeah, he's got that going on. So they got a lot of stuff going on, you know, and you got to hand it to them if they're able to still just push it in that direction, you know. On the legal side, yes.
Yeah. And you know what? And I know guys like Dom, and Gene. They probably catch the most shit because they just bring it right back. You know what I mean? And
yeah. Well, Dom does it. Dom, you know, you study both of them, right? But Dom does it really well.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of like gives a smile on his face.
Yeah.
And then he's shooting bullets right there at that point. You know, in terms of his vocabulary.
Yeah.
Where Gene is just all out, fuck him, you know.
Yeah, it's like you know, Gene is like a representative of my generation. It's like that no fucks given mentality. But you know what? Okay. And it's important that, you know, guys like that know that there are people like me and you that stand behind them. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. That'll never fade away. You know, that's just what I do. That's what.
100%.
I've been down. I've sat at tables, and you know, just recently came back from Boca.
Yep.
You know, and I sit down and eat, and we talk and do this and that. You know, they don't know me from. Well, they know me now, but you got to be trusted, right? And I'm a type of guy that says it like I do, as you see in my videos, right? So.
Yep.
I'm pretty much trusted right now in that sort of community,
mm-hmm.
and people that are either out or some people that are still in, and it's and I don't mind that, you know. I'm cool with that. Nothing's really more satisfying than to know that I could talk to somebody who did cooperate, you know.
Yep.
Because he's got a whole lifestyle, his life and what he was doing, what he was facing. You know, what would anybody else do if you're facing that much time? They do what they got to do. I'm not anybody to judge him. Who am I to judge? You know.
When it comes to like a lot of those guys, like I'll always stand in their corner. Like I'm not gonna subscribe. I'm not gonna ride on any of the drama. I do think that if just from my own life experience, I've seen the destructive force that, you know, the street life will, you know, it has on people, but I don't judge them. There's only one category of person, like anybody that sexualizes or victimizes a child, that is the only irredeemable thing. I will never side with you 100%. It's like, I don't even think we should spend the money to deport you. I think we should just spend a fraction of a cent and put a bullet through you and bury you in the desert.
And done. Right.
And it just, and there you go.
Yeah.
Because
I'm with you on that.
And it's like, you know, and with that, Jason, I see you. Like, it's like my brother in Alaska, you know, and I don't know. It's like the world's is a dark place enough, and it's important that guys like yourself that are out there shedding a little bit of light. You have a little fun online, but you into some real shit. You know what I mean? Like you're out there, and it's important that I talk with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I kind of mixed it up, and I try to keep it some I try to keep it light.
Yep.
Some heavy, some a lot of influence to some of the stuff that I've done, and I even post stuff that we've recently done. We went to the, down in St. Pete.
Yep.
So we went to a nice nightclub down there, and we had a good time. So I filmed a little bit of that, and we kind of posted it up.
Yep.
And so here I'm not as I said, I'm half Italian, half Irish. My dad kind of drummed the Irish into me. Plus when we lived in Dorchester, back in the day, it was predominantly Irish.
Yep.
It was all Irish. They'd ask you where you're from, and they want to know what Catholic church you were associated with, right? Because that kind of told you where. So it's St. Mark's, right down the street.
Yeah.
So that's you're from St. Mark's, so you're up in the Ashmont Station part of town. So that's how it worked. But they invited me to this big shindig down in Fort Lauderdale, where it was the National Italian American Association.
Sure.
Everybody down there. I met Al Capone's grandson. It's like, hey, how you doing? I shook his hand and this, and so, as long as you're a good guy, you can associate with anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're doing anything, right? You can just associate with people, talk to them. Like we're going up to the Bronx. Me and Carmine, one of my best friends, going up to the Bronx. Carmine's been up there since back in the '60s. He knows everybody up there, so we're going up there for the festival in September, and he knows a big guy over there at that's in one of the restaurants up there, right? For one of the families, and we're going to visit, say hi, So, it's all around. There's some people still out there.
Yeah.
But being trusted and being a good guy, that's the name of my game,
Yeah.
And
I got a little bit of Italian in me. I got a little bit of Irish. As you can see, my Irish skin is showing. Like it's glistening, and like that part of me. You got that Florida sun, so you might have changed you a little bit, but.
Yeah, I'm all tatted up here, but I've got like my skin's turning a little tanny right now. Yes.
So what was your first tattoo? Because I know that's a big thing. I hope everybody voted for Gooch. What was your first set of ink?
Right here, 1978.
Look at that.
I'm pretty vain, brother. I get my tattoos touched up.
Yep.
So, 1978, right here.
Wow.
It says "True Till Death."
Yep.
I've got this one. I'll take my jacket off here, bro.
We're showing off our ink.
Yeah, we're inking. Yeah, that whole that whole ink episode thing is different,
Yep.
I had this redone in my Dorchester days.
Yep.
Dorchester. So, I think that whole ink thing is a different type of contest, and it's I'm not gonna say anything out here now. I'm not gonna disparage the organization, but I might be talking about it later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so where were we at?
I don't know. We were talking. You're going to Carmine with up in the Italian Fest in Brooklyn.
Up in the Bronx. We're heading up there. We got a lot of people that want to meet us up there. So we're gonna go up there and say hi. I stepped into this restaurant, right? That's pretty well known for a hangout for the Genovese people.
Yep.
And some guy comes up to me, all black. He says, "How you doing?" Taps me on the shoulder. Says, "I like your stuff." So I don't even know this guy from Adam. It shows you they're out there, they're lurking and they're looking, Some of them don't, a lot of them don't have names out there, A lot of them just, they're Joe Schmo or whatever, and they're just looking to see what's going on. And so when you're on social media, it's pretty crazy because a lot of people know you that you don't have any contact with at all.
I'm still pretty new, but I'm just starting to get it. Like, some guy came into my job the other day and was just like, "Yo, Godfather, what's going on?" And I was just like, "What the fuck is this kid talking about?" And then it turned out that he came across one of my interviews. I think he said it was with Rob Borelli. And so now it's like, he's blown away. And I was just like, he's like, it makes me want to join the mob. I was like, really? That's what you heard in that story? It's like, because listen to it again, brother. Like,
No, really.
But no, it's moments like that are really a surreal experience. But there's a thing I'm starting to slowly work towards, and I'm going to announce it right now. My intention with this is a big thing with you, with the Roll the Bones podcast, we are going to try to we're going to start with a U-Haul, but we're going to try to grow this up gradually, and we're going to fill it with food, supplies, clothes, medicines, anything that can go to the homeless shelters. I want to try to get a lot of people involved. I'm trying to get in league with the networks in our area, but this idea started with you. Like, when I saw you doing it.
That's cool, bro. And that's one of the reasons why I took a lot of flack. So people say, "Why'd you film it? You're supposed to do that sort of thing in silence." Well, no, I'm supposed to do the thing the way I want to do the thing, right?
100%.
So I figured, if I'm going to do it, right, I want to show people a couple of things. I want to show people, especially the ones we were doing after that TikTok money, that here's how we're spending your money, right?
Yep.
But also to give somebody else the gumption maybe to do the same thing, to help somebody out.
Yep.
Because I'll tell you what, we didn't show any faces. That's what we didn't do. We didn't show no faces. It's all on the ground. You see my feet all the time in these things.
Yep.
And you see shadows. But I didn't want to expose the people. But what I want to do, and which is probably the most gratifying thing to do, and I think about it, it's very deeply emotional too, is if you can, it's a one-on-one experience, If you give it to a shelter, that's a different thing. You don't know what happens to that shit, Who knows? They may be selling this shit to people. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you're out on the street, finding the homeless and handing them that and saying, "Here you go, can I help you with anything else?"
Yep.
And they want something more to drink, fine. Where's your shoes? No shoes. We had a extra pair of shoes in the car that we gave this one young lady, and she was extremely happy. So that one-on-one experience of doing that was just, I don't know. You come away from that thinking that, that it was a very good deed, and you want to do it again because you see the smile on their faces, and they're happy.
Yeah.
And they have stories themselves, Because you know what? Any one of us, that close, depending on where you are in your life, probably many steps away, a few steps away, whatever. Anybody can end up in a fucking car and not know where the next move is.
Yep.
You're hoping that somebody like us come along, or somebody comes along and says, "Here, would you like some beef teriyaki?" We were doing the Chinese food for a while. Would you like some beef teriyaki? I mean, thank God for those people. So
it means so much to them. You know what I mean? And because people need to realize that the way things are going, man, it's like over the last 10 years, it's been so hard, especially since COVID. People are crushed, bro. Like in
for real. Look on the supermarket, right? You see the people with their shopping carts, right?
Yeah.
Not very rarely. I remember back in the day, I used to, because we had a family, I used to have two of them, two shopping carts you'd carry on, all full to the brim.
Yep.
Now you see people, mostly all the time, you see half full shopping carts. People are just really, really looking at that. You can look like you got 11 things that you're gonna buy, and it's gonna cost you $150. It's like, what the fuck? So you can imagine we're going through that, and then you go people that are out there trying to grind themselves.
Could you imagine that? It's at this point, it cost me damn near $100 if I took my kids to McDonald's. Me, my wife, my kids, McDonald's, bro. It's like at this point they damn near check your credit score, like when you buy a cheeseburger. So could you imagine, scrounging together money? You got to come up with $15 for a meal at McDonald's. I'll go and I'll spend that money at a nicer restaurant. You know,
No, for
but
real.
these people are out there, and I see it more and more and more every day. I go down to Waterbury, and it's just the tent cities are starting to pop up, and the suffering that happens in there, it's unimaginable. You know, and some of them, it's fueled by addiction. Some of it's fueled by just economic forces. It sucks, bro. Like, and
Yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad. Hey,
we talked about homeless stuff. We talked about organized crime.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we were all over the map, but I'm honored to have this guy, Alex McCleary, with me, my brother. Like, so anybody struggling with addiction, you can go over and check out Black Poster Project that Johnny A. Light turned us on to. You can go over and check out Hardcore Recovery with JD Delay that Jason Vukovic. And in my area, you can always check out Wookie Crossroads. If you need some help, you're struggling with addiction, hit me up, DM me directly, and we'll get you straightened out. My brother, Gooch, Alex, I'm honored to have you here, my friend.
Thank you for the opportunity, man.
I'm so honored and grateful to have you here.
Yeah, it was very compact. We got a lot of stuff covered in a very short period of
We
time.
did.
So
We did. Hyper efficiency is the key. So with that being said, I know I caught some shit the last like 8 episodes. So I was told I have to say like, subscribe, share this thing, blow this thing up. If I get some recognition, thank you, but I don't really give a shit. It's about the people I interview. Alex McCleary, GucciBoomer. All right, brother, I love you. Thank you for being here, and I'll be in touch, man. Stay in touch, bro.
much love to you, man. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, brother, and we out.